In our series, The World After Coronavirus, today we have with us Ambassador Jorge Heine, a research professor with us here at the Pardee School of Global Studies, and we are going to ask him what he thinks the future of Latin America might look like in a post-COVID world.
This corona pandemic has caught Latin America in a very bad moment. Growth last year was 0.1%. Projections for this year were at 2%, but now are at -2%, -3%. There were a number of uprisings in South America last year because of the social situation in Chile, in Ecuador, in Colombia. So things are not looking up. I think the number of things we'll have to revisit. One of them is this notion that we don't need really many stocks in medical supplies and other things. This just-in-time inventory notion. We also need to enhance our local productive capacity. There are certain things you have to produce at home. The notion that everything you need you can import is something, again, that we'll have to reconsider. There are two other things that worry me. One of them is state capacity. For many years now, we have been essentially dismantling the state, cutting budgets, firing public employees, minimizing the role of the government. Obviously, in situations such as this, it is the government that must come through. There are no market solutions for a crisis like this. The other thing is the role of international cooperation and regional cooperation. Let me give only one example. In the case of Chile, there are tens of thousands of travelers that have been stranded around the world. They can't get back because countries have closed borders, the airlines are not flying. These are not unsolvable problems. So here we were in this supposedly globalized world, and now we have a situation in which tourists can't get back to their own countries. It's a bit absurd.
I have been surprised how suddenly we are now concerned more about how many masks a country has, as opposed to how much oil or energy. How do you think the economic conversation about Latin America may or may not change in a post-COVID world?
It's an opportunity to take another look, to revisit the economic model that we have followed. It seems to me that for far too long, we have essentially been de-industrializing the region, going towards producing commodities and natural resources in detriment of manufactured goods, in detriment of knowledge-based industries. I think it's important to consider that we need to give another impetus to Latin American growth. Latin America over the past decade was the worst performing region of any part of the world. It grew at an average, annual average around 2%. Sub-Saharan Africa grew at 4.4%. Then East Asia, of course, at much higher rates. So it seems to me, if this opportunity is seen as one to revisit some basic principles of economic development, there would be a silver lining.
Who is, as a state, who are as societies more capable of rebounding from this economically, politically, and where are our weakest spots?
We have had, in the course of the past few years, as we have elsewhere in the world, the rise of populism. In a crisis like this, when you need sound public policies, when you need effective government, when you need specialists that know what they are talking about, this is the time when people realize that, in fact, there's a lot to be said for experienced politicians, for sound policy advice, for people that actually know what they are talking about. Some of the countries that are having most difficulty are countries like Ecuador and Brazil. Some of the countries that have done the best so far are countries in the Southern Cone, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. Now, these are countries that have had traditionally a strong state capacity. And that, it seems to me, is something that is coming back to the fore.